morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the John Moore Show. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this Friday, the 16th day of August in the year of our Lord 2019. Hope everybody's having a great morning. Okay, we're going to go right away to our special guest, Mr. Tom Berryhill. Today's subject, or at least this hour's subject, is emergency radio communications, but we'll probably go everywhere. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, Tim. Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, I hear you, Lima Charlie, buddy. Not a problem.
That's good. Well, you get us started, Tim. Where do you want to go? We usually talk about communications in general, emergency communications, shortwave listening, all types of subjects, emergency power, solar panels, all types of stuff.
Okay, well, I think the last couple of times you and I have been on together, we beat the solar thing to death. People are probably tired of hearing us talk about that. Well, let's just keep it simple to start with, and we can branch out. I think everybody listening probably knows the importance of being able to keep up with information, especially in an emergency situation, and particularly where there's no other form of communication except what you can catch over the air. With that said, let's talk about, say, average family, what they would need to be able to communicate or at least to listen to what's going on in the outside world. I think I got some pretty good ideas, but who knows? There might be something new out there I don't know about, Tom.
Well, let's hear your idea real fast, and then I'll comment on that, and we can take it from there. What would you propose that the average family be doing?
Well, if they only want to listen, which would probably be what my family would want here, I know there's several shortwave and ham receivers out there, or everything receivers, I guess you could say, for not too much money. I've seen them myself, $150 up, that look like they would do us here real good. My thinking is that an antenna, you could pretty much hear what's going on all over the world, or am I wrong, Tom?
Well, that's true, and of course, any kind of a portable receiver that's battery operated could have an AC adapter. That would be helpful, but in an all-out emergency where there's no power, it would be very wise to have battery-powered equipment with rechargeable batteries, and then a way to recharge those batteries, whether it be from a car. A lot of times you can have a charger that will plug in a cigarette lighter outlet in a car to keep those batteries going, or some sort of an adapter that would power that radio at the same time. Of course, then it's all dependent on the supply of gasoline. But you would need something like that. And then I would have a receiver that would, one of these portable shortwave types that will pick up AM and FM broadcasts. That's really handy, as well as shortwave. And then you always want the single sideband capabilities. And that allows you to pick up the ham radio operators and any government type of transmissions. For the most part, would be on the government now would be on upper sideband. All of their equipment is normally upper sideband, and it might be called USB. And that's not a USB cable like a computer cable, but that stands for upper sideband. They standardize on that. I don't know why, but that's just what they do. The ham operators use lower sideband on the lower frequencies, 40 meters and 80 meters, which is the 7 megahertz and the 3.5 megahertz band. They use lower sideband, and then the bands above that, they use upper sideband. It's just, there is a reason for that, but it's rather technical, and we can talk about that if you want, but probably best to skip that. It gets kind of technical. And it doesn't really matter that much. But you'll hear a lot of government activities. They'll always be on upper sideband, and that would be around 5 megahertz. Most of the time you'll hear most of these stations on 5 megahertz. And, Tim, it's amazing how many government entities are actually setting up shortwave systems. I went by a hospital the other day to take a friend to an appointment, and I was amazed to see a HF antenna on top of that hospital. I'm still investigating, trying to find out what that's all about. But the hospital had they had a dipole antenna on top of there, along with the regular antennas that they use for their communications for the ambulances and so on. Also, I was going up Highway 141 in St. Louis County and got up to Interstate, well, I called it Highway 40. I think they call it 64 now. Right at that intersection up on top of the hill is a Missouri Department of Transportation center, and there are HF antennas on top of that facility. I didn't go up there to look around or barge in and ask questions. I don't think they'd be appreciative of that, but I know what these antennas are when I see them, and they have an HF system up there.
Well, if there was an operator there at Department of Transportation, MoDOT, from what I know, them guys would just love somebody to talk to, Tom. If there was actually an operator there.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind asking what that's all about. Since the state entities, the federal government doesn't have licenses. They have their own frequency assignments, and they have their own system of signing these frequencies and call signs and et cetera. So you'll never be able to go on the FCC database and find out about the federal government frequency allocations. But the state agencies, the state agencies will all be issued call signs and frequency assignments, and they have to operate on those specific frequencies. You can go on the FCC.gov, and you can look up on their database, and I think you'll find a lot of information about what they do. Here in Missouri, I've looked at some of them. They're between 2.0 and I believe up around 9 megahertz. They have assignments in those ranges. A lot of it is between 2 and 6 megahertz. They operate a lot of their equipment in the 5 megahertz area. I believe one of the frequencies is 5.14, if I'm not mistaken. But they'll have data transmissions on there. I don't know if it's encrypted or encoded in any way, but they'll use data. It'll sound kind of like a fax machine, just a bunch of buzzing noise. They'll have some voice communications. Kim, they have these HF systems for when all else fails. If there's a wide area outage or a serious chaotic situation, they'll be using those HF systems. I don't think they use them too much other than to test them maybe on a monthly or weekly basis. They'll do a test on these things. And most of these systems were licensed up to 1 kilowatt of power, although I think they operate most of them at about 125 watts. I looked at one installation once in St. Louis that they had at I believe it was on top of the Soldiers Memorial. There's a memorial building down there, and the antenna was on the roof. I was actually checking it out for them. This was over 20 years ago, and I just don't remember all the details, but they were having trouble with it, and they asked me to take a look at it, so I did. And one of the people that was involved with that group asked, and so we took a look at that. But anyway, it was operating on 5. I believe it was 5.14, and they would test it once a month with Jefferson City. They had the main unit in Jefferson City, which is the state capital, and then so all these different counties started getting these systems. They didn't have them initially, but as I would drive, if I went through a county seat, I would always make it a point to get close to the sheriff's department or the courthouse and just see if those antennas are up there yet. And now I see them in almost every county I go through. It's not like I travel around that much, but anytime I go through a county seat, I look for those antennas, and especially that HF antenna, because that would put them in the shortwave spectrum, and that's where they would use that for long-range communications. They're VHF systems, and all all of the state now, most of it is on 150 megahertz. And the Highway Patrol,
Right.
they don't use their low band system anymore. They go through the local sheriff's department. They're all interlinked, and they call it MOSWIN. I don't remember what it stands for, but they have everything trunked together and linked together, I guess by microwave systems. I'm not really sure how they do that. But if that system, which is rather complex, if that shuts down or goes haywire for any reason, they would be using that HF system as a backup, and they'd be able to talk statewide very, very easily. There would be no problem at all, even at 100 watts. They were using the radio equipment I looked at that one time years ago was a Motorola system, and it was single sideband, and there was no data transmissions. Now they could have easily upgraded that, which would be most likely what's happened. They'll have data equipment on there now, computers tied in. But back then it was just voice. Yeah, it was only voice back, and that was in the mid to late 1990s, and they had that system set up.
I was there.
The equipment, really, really nice equipment, but it only operated at 125 watts, although the license indicated they could operate at 1 kilowatt, 1,000 watts. So even with that, and they had automatic antenna tuners on it, and it would go statewide easily, and actually into several states if they needed to. So now the ham operators are assigned some frequencies. They're discrete frequencies. It's not a band of frequencies, but they operate on several discrete channels in that same range, and it's shared. It's on a secondary basis with government entities. So the idea is if you can use this daily and if any time of day or night if you want, all the time, as much as you want, unless a government station comes on, then you have to cease transmitting. You could listen, but you have to stop transmitting and allow the government entity to use that frequency. So they share those frequencies, and that's why I tell a lot of the ham operators, if you're worried about any kind of chaos or war situations in the future, make sure you can operate on those 5 megahertz frequencies, those that the ham operators have allocations on, because the government would never have jamming in their own frequency ranges, and it would be very wise to be able to listen and talk on those frequencies. You would pretty much be guaranteed that you could get through because they're not going to put any jamming or anything into their own frequency spectrum. So that might be something to keep in mind. But anyway, shortwave listening is very, very important. And any type of shortwave receiver that has single sideband capabilities will get you information from the ham radio operators that will be very vital to fill you in on what's going on in various areas around the country. The ham operators will have a pulse on they'll have they'll be right on the pulse in the community. They'll know exactly what's going on and be able to relay that information. You'll hear a lot of people trying to get in touch with family members, friends, people that they know that maybe were traveling and are now stranded. That information would be available. If you are a ham operator, you'd be able to talk to them. But otherwise, just the ability to listen would get you up to speed on what's happening throughout the region and throughout the country.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Tom. You know, you were talking about the highway patrol. Last night, I was up to drive through a convenience store, and right in front of me was a highway patrolman. And my grandson and I were talking about the various antennas on top of the car. And, I pointed, look, that one is VHF because they operate in, or not VHF, UHF because they operate in the 160s. That one's UHF because they operate in the 430s, and those two are for data, like the computer when they check your license and the registration and all that. And he found that quite amazing. Here's this vehicle with 4 different antennas, and if I had had both legs, I would have jumped out of the car and run him over there and knocked on the guy's window and said, hey, can he look inside your car real quick? And I'm sure the highway patrolman would have probably been happy to let him do it, but I wasn't going to send him up there by himself, and it's too hard for me to jump out and do that. But, 1990 or the 1990s was the last time I actually had anything to do with law enforcement. I think I quit in 95, and that's the last time I had anything to do with it. But I used to set up these vehicles, the flashing lights, the siren units, put in the radios and all that. That's one of the things I used to do here in Salem. I enjoyed it. I was good at it, and they got cheap labor. So, yeah, but the stuff they've got now compared to 30 years ago is or 25 years ago, is just incredible.
Yeah, they have mobile data terminals and all that. You look at those antennas, Tim, one of them, most of their operations, from what I can tell, is on VHF. And like in my area, they use the sheriff's frequency, which is on 154 or 151. They have several channels, but they use those. They share them, and they go through the local dispatchers, the county dispatchers. And then they can also talk car to car. So you want to be able to listen to all those frequencies. That would get you up to speed on what's happening right in your general area. Now, those transmissions could be encrypted, so you would not be able to listen. And most of that is on P25 digital. So you'd need a scanner or a receiver that would pick up the P25. That's very important. But if they encrypt it, all bets are off. You can forget about it unless you have unless you have one of these service monitors. I use instruments called service monitors. It's like a receiver and transmitter with an oscilloscope, voltmeters. It's everything you need to test the radios in one box. And then you can also listen into encrypted transmissions, but you need the codes. You need the data codes, the decryption code. And if you don't have that, even having that specialized equipment will not allow you to listen in. So they've got it pretty much nailed down, and it's very hard to crack that. I'm sure it's been done, but I think you're going to look long and hard to find some way to get in and listen to those things. So, but if they don't have encrypted transmissions, you'd be able to hear them. There's also, if you look in those cars, sometimes there's a real short antenna. It might only be a little whip antenna about 3 inches long. That's for their walkie-talkie units and it could also be for those data terminals you're talking about.
Okay.
I believe they operate on.
Hang on a minute, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 3 minutes. 1-800-313-9443. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this Friday, the 16th day of August, in the year of our Lord, 2019. Well, as they say, TGIF, thank goodness it's Friday, right, Julie? Anyway, we're speaking with Tom Berryhill right now about radio communications, one of my favorite subjects. Excuse me, folks. I got a frog in my throat, and I've been trying to get rid of it the whole time. But anyway, Tom, where do we want to go next, buddy?
Well, we can finish up real quick on monitoring these public service agencies, law enforcement. You can learn a lot from finding out what the frequencies are and program all those frequencies in the channels for your local area. Find out where the ham radio networks operate. There's quite a few of those. During the day in your local area and regional areas, you would listen on the 40-meter band around 7.25 megahertz, plus or minus. From there, I think you'd find a lot of networks that operate throughout the day, and they'll be on lower sideband. At nighttime, you would go on the 75-meter band, and that would be anywhere from about 3.7 to 4 megahertz. In those ranges, you'll find networks operating in there that would cover your general area and that region or that part of the country, and you'd be able to listen in on those ham operators and find out what's going on there. Sometimes you can hear them. I've heard networks there in California on the West Coast, even at nighttime. But they cover quite a distance at night. On that 75-meter band, it's 3.5 to 4 megahertz, but they call the upper part of that 75 meters, and that would be the where all the voice transmissions are. You'll also hear data transmissions in those ranges. If you have any kind of computer equipment that would interface with the radio, you'd be able to pick up the data transmissions. None of that will be encoded. You'll be able to actually watch the messages. It almost be like looking at email messages as they come across your screen as they're transmitted. You see all that in real time. But most of the information under stressful situations, I think a lot of it would be by voice, and they'd be actually using voice communications. So that's where the single sideband capabilities come in, and I really think that between a scanner and a really good shortwave receiver that has single sideband capabilities, you'd be able to get most of the information that you're looking for. And then also on shortwave broadcasts on those frequencies, you would be able to listen to foreign stations outside our country. And many times, Tim, you know as well as I do that most of the valuable information will come from a non-domestic source. A foreign country will tell it like it is. But,
Absolutely.
You know, our own news sources may be filtered somewhat, although there's a lot of truthful broadcasting that goes on the shortwave spectrum. It'd be a wise thing to have those capabilities. So that's pretty much it on that. If anybody has questions, they're welcome to call in, and I'll do my best to answer those. But that kind of equipment's good to have. And then we get back to your own personal communications. If you're a ham radio operator where you would want VHF and UHF capabilities, that would be really good for your local area. If you like to use HTs or walkie-talkies, they're usually called HTs by the ham operators. That stands for handy talkie.
Yeah.
And those are handheld radios, and they can usually go anywhere from 1 to 5 watts per radio. That gives you very limited range. A lot of people think it's like a cell phone, and you can talk any distance you want with that handheld radio, and it really is not. That's not the case as far as ham operators are concerned, because if you don't have a repeater station that's within range of that handheld unit, you're not going to be talking very far. But they're really, really good to have if you're in a convoy of vehicles and you're following each other, and you need. Yeah, it's a lot faster and more reliable than any cell phone would ever be, because you don't have to dial in, and you don't have restricted range. I mean, some of these higher power HTs, you can talk a mile or two from car to car if you're on flat ground. You could do that. You could also get an external antenna, a magnet mount antenna, or if you already have antennas on the cars. Some cars might have higher power mobile equipment. You'd still be able to talk to those. And usually if you're within a convoy, you would have reliable communications throughout the whole trip. And you don't need a repeater or anything. You'd be talking what's called simplex, or everybody on the same frequency, and that would fulfill those needs quite readily without any problems whatsoever. It'd be very reliable. So
I was just going to say here locally, I didn't mean to step on you, Tom. We got that little bit of a delay I keep not forgetting about, but I don't give enough time.
It makes it a little interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. All I was going to say is, Tom, with an HT, the farthest I've ever gone here locally, and this is when we had our radio system set up, and I had I don't really honestly know how tall it was, but a tall antenna. It was taller than the house. Was 4 miles line of sight. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 3 minutes. 1-800-313-9443. Give us a call.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this, a Friday, the 16th day of August, year of our Lord, 2019. We're visiting with Mr. Tom Berryhill, and the subject at hand is radio communications. Call-in number is 1-800-313-9443 if you got a question for Tom. Tom, I got a question for you. What's your opinion on buying surplus radio equipment? And this is something I've done successfully over the years, quite successfully. What's your opinion on doing that?
Well, it depends on the type of equipment, Tim. Are you talking about two-way radio systems like what they used in police cars and so on?
Yes, exactly, that and base stations.
Well, I think as far as ham radio goes, it's an excellent way to go if you don't mind being stuck on the amount of frequencies or the channels that equipment has. Some of that equipment was one channel. Some of it was multiple channels. I've seen them with 32 channels. I've seen them with maybe 5 or 6 channels. And also, if it's older equipment, they had crystals in there, and it's getting hard to get crystals. A really good source was International Crystal Company, and they would take those channel elements from all the Motorola, General Electric, even RCA type equipment that has long since been obsolete, and they could recrystal those for the ham operators. They had all the specifications. All you had to do was tell them the channel element type. They could do it. All of that down the drain because they closed down. They're gone. And as of within the last year or two, they're out of business in history. It's really a shame because they were an excellent source. They're still sources, but not as good as them. So that's a problem. You have to pay very close attention to that. Now, if it's later equipment that's synthesized and you just need to program it, that's better. But as far as I don't know about General Electric, I believe they were sold off and merged. I'm trying to remember the company that they merged with, and they don't produce the equipment anymore. Although I think some of the best equipment ever made for base stations especially was the General Electric Master 2 system.
I agree.
Those things are bulletproof, and they must have had the best sales crew out there because I've seen a lot of that equipment around. I've seen General Electric base stations and Motorola mobile units.
Oh, yeah.
I'm more familiar with the Motorola equipment, and I built repeater systems, 45 years ago. I put a system on. It was General Electric. It was the version right before the Master equipment came out, and was called the Progress Line, Progress Line, if I remember right. And it had some tubes in it. The receiver was all solid state, some tubes. But it was a very, very good system, and we had tremendous coverage. We had it on a tall building in Clayton, Missouri, so that covered the entire St. Louis area, and then some. It went into across the river, across the Mississippi into Illinois. Since Illinois was so flat, we had really good range into Illinois. And that was about a 75-watt repeater system on a 15-story building with a very high-gain antenna. And it was interconnected with a telephone line, so we use it for phone calls and things like that. It worked very well. In fact, I had several people that worked on police systems tell me that system you guys have set up works better than the police department system they were working on. So we put a lot of effort into it, and that was surplus equipment. That was General Electric. And then I worked on a lot of the I'll tell you some really good Motorola units were those MyCores. They were made back in the 1970s. Motorola MyCore, MICOR. You can buy those now for scrap prices. Nobody wants this stuff. But again, you need the crystals. Then you get past that, and I bought an entire fleet when a trucking company shut down, and these were Motorola Meritrack. I remember those. Those are really, really good pieces of equipment. I bought those things real cheap and then resold them for quite a bit on eBay and made a lot of money doing that. But that was it was about 18 years ago. And now all of that equipment is in the dump or ham operators using it because they had to go to narrowband. All the equipment had to be narrowbanded by I think it was January of 2013. So that put a lot of surplus equipment on the market, and the ham operators are not stuck with those kind of regulations. We can operate wideband, narrowband, anything you want to put on there. So that's a really good source of equipment if you have the programming capabilities for it. Now, Motorola was really, really touchy about their software getting out and used by a non-Motorola service shop. So if you weren't a Motorola service shop, so let me tell you, trying to get those radios programmed was a nightmare if you didn't know somebody. And some of that software has leaked out. There's been some workarounds and so on. These ham guys are pretty innovative when it comes to figuring out ways to get the job done. And a lot of the people that worked at Motorola in the engineering departments where they designed all this equipment, many of them were ham operators anyway, and they knew their ways around that, and they shared some secrets here and there. Probably could have gotten them in a lot of trouble or fired, but a lot of that info leaked out, and there's a lot of workarounds for that. But some of that equipment really, really works good. I kept several of those Ameritracs, Tim. I had about almost 300 of those things, and I kept a handful of the nicest ones. There were several that were brand new in the box, had never been installed. Those were spares as replacements in case they needed them, and they apparently didn't need them because they were brand new. I've got 3 or 4 of those brand new in the box. I kept those for my own use, and I've never used them. You can take those radios, and you can use the receiver from one and the transmitter from a second one and put them together in a cabinet and make a repeater out of those if you wanted to do that. That was one of the things I thought about doing. But I just these were high power. These were 100-watt mobile units with 99 channels. So they were really, really nice, and I kept the good ones. They were VHF, by the way, and I paid $10 a piece for them. So it was a pretty good deal, and I've sold them for hundreds of dollars a piece when it was time to turn them. So, and then I got all the base stations too. They were Motorola MSF 5000 base stations. Those were really, really nice units. So buying surplus equipment, if you can find the stuff and you can work on it, the good thing about it is all the service manuals are generally available. You can get the service manuals online. Equipment. I bought online, or you can buy them. Go on eBay and you'll find them. Anytime I've bought any type of equipment, I always do the best I can to get my hands on the factory service manual, and that's whether it's a vehicle, a truck, a car, a piece of test equipment. And most of the time, I'm shopping for test equipment. I focus on the technical side of things more so than operating the equipment. I don't get on the air that much anymore, but if I do buy some equipment, I will always get the factory service manual for that piece of equipment in case it needs to be calibrated or has to be any kind of maintenance work performed. It's good to have that factory service manual so you're not just going in there blind. You know what you're going to be doing. That helps a lot. And all of that's generally available. Now, as far as ham equipment, so ICOM, Kenwood, Yaesu, any of those, Alinco, any of those pieces of equipment, you can get the factory service manuals for those as well. It's not really all that expensive. A lot of ham operators don't want to spend the money, but I think it's a wise thing to do if you're going to have several of those. Say you have several friends and they're all together standardizing on a piece of equipment. It'd be a good idea to get a manual that you could all share in case anything had to be tuned up or worked on internally. It'd be good to have that information. But the difference between the surplus equipment is that you're stuck on these channels. You get the ham equipment made by ICOM, Kenwood, Yaesu, Alinco. All of those are tunable. You could just dial in the frequency you want, and you're there. And then you can also assign channel numbers. You can put alphanumeric channels in there, so you can have south side repeater or west side repeater or Tim Spencer channel or whatever you wanted to do. You know, if I wanted to have a channel that you and I talked, I would just put your name in there and just dial that in, and you wouldn't have to pay attention to the frequency itself. You'd know where you are. Many of them will show the frequency and the alphanumeric label for that frequency. So that's really handy, and you can change that right on the radio itself at any time. You can reprogram it out in the field, and that's the one thing that you can't do with the commercial type equipment. But if you're going to operate it on specific channels and you have the way to set it up, it's a very good way to go because you'll have top-notch equipment with that surplus stuff. And you can buy those radios for $20 or $25 because nobody wants them anymore.
Right. Well, you know, Tom, I would say it was early 90s. I was at an auction. I think it was conservation auction, and I bought a pallet load of mobile radios. And it wasn't like a 4x4 foot pallet. It was 4x4, but maybe a foot and a half tall, probably 80 units. And they were mostly Motorola MaxTrack 16s and 32s, a few GE mobile units in there, and I made out like a bandit on that. I sold some to the police department. Which I worked for at the time. I sold some just to people I knew. I had a bunch of them, and about half of them were quite serviceable and quite repairable. In fact, most of them, I would say 75% of them, just flat out worked. And that was one of the best deals I ever made. Same day I bought a whole pallet of light bars and flashing red dash lights and stuff like that. And again, I made a fortune on that too. So it can be done.
Oh, yeah. Now, to talk about state auctions and that, Tim, right down by you, I don't know if they do it anymore, but they're in Salem. I think it was every May they would have an auction.
It's every August now.
Is it? Well, I went to that a couple of times, and the last time I went, I bought a pallet. It was about 3 feet tall, and it was going to be raining that day, and this was outside, and they had that clear plastic wrap around everything, but I was able to peek down in the center of one of them, and I saw a blue screen, so I knew it was a piece of Hewlett-Packard or Tektronix test equipment. I couldn't see what it was, but I knew it would be valuable. So I bid on that, and I ended up, I think I paid $150 for the whole pallet, but there was a Hewlett-Packard Spectrum Analyzer down in there that works perfectly. So I bought that thing for peanuts. Yeah, I still have it, and I still use it occasionally, but I wanted it just for that, and there was some really nice power supplies and a couple of mobile units. There was even an 8-track tape player down in there, and there was a lot of people there that are just kind of dumpster divers, and some of the stuff I gave away, and some of it I shouldn't have done this or admit it, but I just left it behind. I cut the wrap off of there and put the stuff in my truck that I wanted to take, and I gave away some of it to a guy that was standing there, and I left the rest behind, but I took all the good stuff, and I'm sure they come through and let the dumpster divers go through and take everything that's left over. But that Spectrum Analyzer was in there. And I'll tell you something else mentioning these General Electric Master 2. If you ever come across any ham operators that are setting up equipment and they need power supplies, things like that, one of the best power supplies ever made, in my opinion, was that base station power supply for the Master 2 repeaters and base stations. That thing is bulletproof. Plus, it has an interconnection point in there where you can connect a battery bank to it. It will charge the batteries, and if the AC power goes out, so if the power company has a power failure and there's an outage in your area, the equipment will instantly switch over to battery power. And then when the power comes back on or you fire up a generator, it will then switch back to the AC power and recharge those batteries, and it'll go back and forth like that. Those power supplies are nearly bulletproof. Plus, a very important thing to take into consideration, Tim, is that they're a linear power supply. They have voltage regulators that operate in a linear mode, and we could talk about that if you want, but it gets rather technical, and most people won't want to hear that. But that I feel they're a little bit more wasteful in power consumption than a switching power supply, but a lot of the modern power supplies that you get for some of this equipment operates in a switching mode. These older power supplies don't, and that General Electric power supply did not. And that's why I like them. If you operate any kind of HF radio equipment, especially if you're operating single sideband or AM or any of those modes on shortwave on the HF frequencies, you really don't want to use a switching power supply because the noise that they generate can really interfere with the reception when you're trying to hear weak signals. Those power supplies themselves generate a lot of noise. Now, many of them have filters in there, and they're pretty clean, but I don't like them. I just don't like switching power supplies as far as communications equipment goes. As a matter of fact, I don't really care too much for any power supply. I use battery banks to run my equipment, my ham radio equipment, and I have a battery charger set up that keeps them charged. So I always run the equipment off of batteries rather than AC power supplies. But if somebody was looking for a really nice power supply, look for those General Electric systems because they were one of the best I've ever come across. As a matter of fact, Tim, I saw a guy had a Craigslist ad for General Electric equipment. It turns out it was the entire communications thing from the St. Louis airport when they had to go to the narrowband system. They put it all by the dumpster, and this guy picked it all up. He got permission to take it, and I bought the entire lot from him. There was 6 repeaters in there, and everything. It was all Motorola. There was a little bit of General Electric, but mostly Motorola. And I barely had enough room in a pickup truck to haul all this stuff. And the guy, he wanted $25 for everything. So that was a bargain. And I still have those repeaters. A couple of them I took apart and used pieces out of for other projects. But the most valuable parts in those things were not the power supplies, believe it or not, but the cabinets that the equipment were built in, the rack cabinets, plus the duplexer networks that are used for repeaters. Those are very valuable, and they never get obsolete.
Hang on a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 3 minutes.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this, a Friday, the 16th day of August, 2019. Quick note, ladies and gentlemen, John will be back on Monday, and he will be here to host the show as far as I know for a good long time. However, I'm always available if he needs me to sit in for him. Anyway, right now we're visiting with Mr. Tom Berryhill. We're talking about radio communications. Tom, this is our final segment this hour. Go ahead and tell the folks whatever you'd like to tell them, whatever you think is most important, sir.
Well, I think most important, Tim, if we focus on emergency communications, have that scanner, a shortwave radio with single sideband capabilities. receiving and listening is more important than transmitting. In trying times, you want to be able to hear what's going on. You can listen to even John even mentions this, the road crews. You know, they're out there, the utility departments for various cities, counties. They'll be reporting back to headquarters what they're coming across. So it'd be good to listen to those channels, the fire departments, and of course the police departments. So many of those have gone to digital modes of transmission. So you want to make sure you have a relatively modern scanner or receiver that's capable of picking up those digital modes. Sometimes the law enforcement will encrypt it. Their transmissions are scrambled or encrypted, and you won't be able to listen to them. So it's unfortunate that that's happened as far as listening goes, but it's good for them so the bad guys can't hear what the police are doing. But I think all in all, if you have those capabilities with a scanner and a shortwave receiver, you will have probably 90% of what you would need to hear information that would really be beneficial to you and your family and your neighborhood and your friends, help you to keep up with what's happening around the nation, around the world, and especially in your local area. That would be very helpful. Then you would need radios. If you're not a ham operator, you could have a CB unit. That would help. And also you could have GMRS equipment.
Right.
That's what an FRS, a family radio service, and a general mobile radio service. Those two types of equipment use some shared channels in there. But the GMRS, you can operate higher, I think 50 watts. I think you can operate at 50 watts. So if you had some UHF systems, and Tim, you mentioned the surplus equipment. I don't think they put the narrowband requirements on the GMRS radios. So you could buy these Motorola Spectras, which were some real nice equipment, and operate those things to this day on GMRS.
Well, GMRS, I know, is stepped in, I don't quite know how to say it, but it's a 0.25. In other words, it goes 700, or in other words,
they're on
462. Yeah, 462.
Right.
Yeah, 0.00, 0.25, 0.50, 0.75. That's the way it's stepped.
Right. Now, you do need test equipment to set those up or have a radio shop do it for you. Some of the ham operators have the equipment to do it. That's what you need, and it's wise to get that set up now while things are relatively calm.
Agreed. Thank you, Tom. I'll be talking with you soon. Folks, we'll be back in 3 minutes. Dr. Lynn Wilbert, hang in there. Welcome back to the second hour, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this Friday, the 16th day of August, in the year of our Lord 2019. John will be back Monday morning. I talked to him last night. Everything's going great. So we're going to go straight to our guest, Dr. Lynn Wilbert. Good morning, Doc.
Greetings, Tim. Good to be here. Can you hear me? Great?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, perfect.
So, what would you like to talk about this morning, sir?
Oh, my goodness. You just tossed the ball to me.
Yes, I did, intentionally. Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you something, Doc. I have been trying, you and I, I don't know, a month or two ago, had a discussion on air about this phantom pain I had in my leg. I've been trying what you suggested. It's working. Not as quickly as I would like, but it is working.
Awesome. And see that again, that principle. Wow, Tim. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The part of your system that controls healing, your survival system, your subconscious, all it knows is survival. It doesn't keep an inventory of parts that are missing. For instance, and I can't think of a better explanation, but this is by no means meaning to say anything about the smartest human species on the planet, also known as females. females have 60 gig hard drives, and all males have 30. So all females have 60 gig hard drives. That's twice as fast as a computer that is a 30 gig hard drive. And the reason why I had to figure that out is because no matter what decision I made, I always asked my wife, and sometimes we didn't agree. And I couldn't see why. And there were times I went and get, well, honey, it just doesn't feel good. I went, excuse me? What really does feelings have to do with this? Well, I'll support you, but it doesn't. Didn't work as good as I thought it did. Now, how do you know that? You. And after repeated times where she was correct, in fact, she was wrong only twice, and I made both of those up, so I had to come back and fess up and tell her, say, you were right then too. I went to the neuroscience book. It's called Neuroscience in Medicine. I looked into the brain because that's what I do. I want to know how the brain works. That's the new frontier now, is the mind. How the mind affects your life, how the brain works. We still have so much work, so much learning to do. But here's what I do know. There's a gland in the brain. It's called the pineal gland.
Right.
Pineal, pineal gland. And it's like the windowsill to the information that's energetically available in the universe and reality. It's tapped into intuitiveness. It's intuitively hardwired into the information that's available. See, thoughts are things. Thoughts are merely electrical recordings of energy generated by the only brain on the planet that can do it, and that's the human brain. Animal brains can't think like we do and affect things with our thoughts. And so I'm looking at this, I'm going, so that's why you're right all the time. So it was easy after that. Well, honey, what you think? Oh, I feel good about that. Okay, good. How you feel about this one? Okay, we'll put it on the table. How about this one? Oh, yeah. And that's how I tell me what to do, because I know you know. But that's not the course I intended to take. I was going to talk about, it's unfortunate that we have to donate organs from time to time, and it's common for female species to donate reproductive organs, whether it's the uterus or ovary. And so what happens is, once you remove that hardware, once that hardware is removed, the subconscious has no awareness that it's gone.
Right.
It has no awareness that it's gone. And so they remove the hardware, but the software or the electrical system and the plumbing, the nerve system and the circulatory system, the veins and arteries that went there, they're still there. And so your brain has no idea. And so it's going, hey, reproductive organs. That's a chemical messenger, also known as a hormone.
Right.
And then it says, I didn't hear anything. So it says it louder, hey, chemical hormones. That's called hot flashes and all the other hormonal events that go along with it. See, the subconscious, the healing part of the brain, has no idea how old you are, has no idea of what condition you think you have, doesn't know what body parts you donated for whatever reason. It doesn't know that. What it does know, that its only job is survival. Survival. And it will sacrifice, your subconscious will sacrifice any cell in order to keep the heart cells happy. See, we used to be a one-cell organism. Way back, and our mothers didn't even know that they were carrying us.
Right.
And inside that one cell is every structure that you eventually over 42 weeks or so, grew into, and now we grew into mature humans. But we started from a one-cell organism. The heart, the lungs, the liver, every cell was inside that one cell. And then we went from one cell to two. They were exactly alike. 2 cells to 4, 4 to 8. And after you got to a certain stage, about a couple 100,000 cells, you started to differentiate. You started to become a specialized cell. So whatever your designation was, wherever you were, if you were on the outside or the middle layer or the inside layer, you developed into organ systems, bones, muscles, ligaments, and tendons. In the outside layer, you developed your skin and your central nervous system. Whoa, that's an important point, because that's where energy balancing comes in. That when you touch the skin with proper polarity, you can affect the nerve system at its highest level. Phenomenal. So that's the ectoderm. So now you continue developing, and your mother's, third of the way through. Then you get to 42 weeks or so, and then you pop out a fully developed human being. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and 9 openings.
Yep.
Now, your subconscious is full grown. From the moment you were conceived energetically, your subconscious was there, full grown. Now you have a physical entity, the body, being run by the subconscious. And since your subconscious built your body, it knows how to run your body. Let me say that again. Since your subconscious built your body by way of your energy field, it knows exactly how to run your body. However, here's the hitch.
Okay.
Your subconscious does what it's told. And how do you tell it? With your conscious mind, with your conscious thinking. So you can influence your subconscious function, and thus the function of your body, with your thoughts. Let me say that again. Your thinking, how you feel about yourself and others and experiences that you've lived through, has a direct effect either toward healing or away from healing, and it's affected by every thought you have. That's the power of thoughts. Thoughts affect lifestyle. For instance, if you believe in disease, you'll have one eventually. Now, the body can not be at ease, meaning you can feel some increased awareness somewhere. Some people call it pain. I don't. Most people don't want pain. I welcome increased awareness. That's what pain is. Pain is your body finally getting through and is telling you that some aspect of your lifestyle is taking you so far away from healing that it must get your attention. And it must tell you that. And it tells you by way of increased awareness. Now, any increased awareness that you have, any increased awareness, is instead of a heart attack. Okay. What in the world are you talking about, Dr. Wilbur? Well, that's a good question. Remember, go back to that one-cell organism. Where was your heart? Right there.
Right.
And then you fully developed into circulatory, heart, lung, liver, the organs. You developed into those structures from the inside layer called the endoderm. Now, every cell is either an acidic cell or an alkaline cell. Every cell. And so, which is better, acid or alkaline? Alkaline is the preferred state of fluid inside the cell and outside the cell. Alkaline. The only acid liquid would be what's eliminated from the bladder. Most people call it urination. It is micturition. Micturition, okay. Removing urine from the body by way of the bladder is micturition. From kidney to bladder is urination. It just pops into my head for some reason. And so that's the only acid liquid, or should be, should I say, because you can change the environment of the cell to acid. And when you do that, acid is itis. So increased acid equals increased inflammation. That's how the body deals with increased acid, because I think I've mentioned this. Here's how important alkaline and acid is. The pH scale measures that alkalinity, acidity. And the pH of the blood, no matter what you do, no matter what condition you have or think you have, because the body responds perfectly to the stimulus that you give it. You just don't show up with a disease one day. You may, but you didn't know you were getting ready to walk off the edge of the roof either.
Right.
With the blindfold on. You just don't show up with a condition. You develop a condition. Now, trauma is different. That's a whole separate category, trauma.
Right.
So when you have increased acid, you have increased awareness. Or again, some people call it pain, stiffness, hurt, da-da-da-da. See, those are word pictures, Tim. Word pictures, you've heard a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Correct.
Okay? When you say a word, how many pictures do you get? Oh. And then the picture's worth 1,000 words. And then when you say a word, you get more word pictures. Yeah, I stopped doing the math. It's just a continuum. So it's best to describe your body's perfect response by what it is doing. It is giving you increased awareness. Now, I don't want increased awareness either. That's why my responsibility to myself and as I teach others is to teach how you're doing that to yourself. Exactly what you're doing to create an acid environment. And so back to the condition you think you have. Any itis, and we can just name a few of them: arthritis, appendicitis, let's see, cholecystitis, the gallbladder.
Right.
Get the point. Any itis is in response to increased acid, and increased acid anywhere can be tolerated for a time except the heart. Heart cells cannot tolerate increased acid. That's known as a heart attack.
Right.
Still the number one eliminator of human beings in this country today.
Well, I've had 5 of them, Doc.
Pardon me?
That I've had 5.
Oh, my goodness. How fortunate are you? I wouldn't try it again, Tim.
No, that stuff hurts, Doc. Not to mention all the time in the hospital.
Oh, yes. Yes. Did they make you join the I Survived the Heart Attack Club?
No, but they did go in there and rebuild it for about 8 hours, and then they couldn't get it going again for about another hour. So I'd say I'm pretty doggone lucky.
Unfortunate, yeah. You have some more stuff to learn.
Yeah, I must.
More stuff to teach. Yet, to this day, Born Jewish, for instance, if you happen to go there, they counsel you, they make you join the Heart Attack Club, to give you a T-shirt and a hat, and then they start to teach you things. They teach you things like decrease the stress in your life.
Right.
Try to think positive about life. Eat fruits and vegetables. exercise. Get outside and breathe.
Yep. Hey, hang on, Doc. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions for Dr. Wilbert, give us a call, 1-800-313-9443.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on this, a Friday, the 16th day of August, year of our Lord, 2019. We're visiting with my friend, Dr. Lynn Wilbert, right now. Very, very educational show, in my opinion. I usually don't enjoy medical stuff, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this show. So, Dr. Lynn, let's continue, please.
Right.
Are you there, sir? Okay.
I'm here, yeah. And so you have sales. And I have a puppy in the background that insists on joining the call.
No problem.
Hold on just a sec.
Sure. Well, folks, I want to reiterate in case you missed it earlier, John will be back on Monday. Everything's fine. He apparently was quite successful in his endeavors, which is a good thing. But anyway, while Dr. Wilbert's getting things going, just wanted to invite you folks to join me and my wife and my best friend Rick tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on Republic for the Rural Survival Show. Come join in the conversation. We always have a good time. We probably cut up too much, but boy, we have fun. So we'll talk about gardening most likely, politics, finances, religion. Who knows where the show will go? But we'll start taking callers right after the bottom of the first, or after the first half hour is the way we usually do that. So please join us, 10 a.m. to noon Central tomorrow, right here on RBN. Heck, we even get a producer in. Okay, welcome back, Doc.
Well, thank you. Pardon that little interrupt. Sometimes those children don't obey.
I understand completely.
And say, hey, I hear you in there. I don't hear anybody else, but you're talking.
Yes, yeah, so you must be talking to me.
Oh, man. And she's a talker, too. That's how I chose her. I adopted her from the Humane Society. And I walked past her cage, her kennel, and she said, woo, 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 woo. I said, what? I'm going home with you. Really? Okay. You sure?
I hear you.
Oh, my goodness. It was so much fun. One of the things I do endeavor to accomplish, Tim, is to make what seems to be complex things about how the body works. Because it is complex.
Oh, yeah.
Complex. But it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. We tend to make it, not take that back. The medical profession tends to make it complicated, but it's really very simple. For instance, you get an annual checkup, and 1 year the nurse comes in and says, well, Mr. Wilbert, your blood pressure is elevated today, and we're going to have you speak with the doctor and discuss what your options are. What do you think your options are when the doctor comes in?
There's only one.
Exactly.
More medication, more blood pressure medication.
Rare. It's a rare physician, medical doctor, that will suggest to you, well, here's what we'll do. We'll modify your lifestyle. We'll have you eat 80%, 75%. Don't start too fast. Just start slow until you get up to about 75 to 80% fruits and vegetables. That's going to provide some vitamins and minerals and alkalinity that you need to get the raw materials in order for you to at least have some more energy and get outside and start to walk. Start with a half a block, then a block, and then to gradually work up. And then make sure that you eliminate the fatty meats. If you're a meat eater, get lean meat. Emphasis on the exercise after you finish the meal instead of exercising on the couch. Get up and go for a walk for about 30 minutes. And then make sure you're drinking plenty of water. When you're outside walking, pay attention to your breath. And then make sure that you are not eating or drinking anything 4 hours before you go to bed. That gives your system time to settle down and prepare for healing. You can't heal and digest simultaneously. Those are two different things, although both of them engage the parasympathetic nerve system. But if you just finish the meal and go to sleep, how much digestion you think's going on? Not much. It's going on without your knowledge. Not much. Not a whole lot. And so at least 4 hours before retiring, and then make sure that before you go to sleep, you review your day. How was your day? Oh, I had a terrible day. Why? Well, this person cut me off in the parking lot and moved right into my space, and it just upset me so much. Well, how many times have you told this story?
All right. Hang on just a minute, Doc. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 3 minutes. 1-800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Welcome back. Julie, there, I guess Julie can hear me now. This new Skype program, I do not like, folks. But I got what I got. Anyway, welcome back, folks, to the final half hour of the show. Why don't you start calling in now? That way, if we have more than one caller, we can get to everybody without getting cut off by time. Number is 1-800-313-9443, and we're visiting with Dr. Lynn Wilbert. And very informative hour to this time. Okay, Doc, please proceed.
All right, thanks, Tim. And so we were talking about how you take one moment to become frustrated, perturbed, angry, upset because of what someone else did. First of all, you have no idea what was on that person's mind. You don't know what their day was like. So since you couldn't control their behavior, you can only control your thoughts, feelings, and the emotions and behavior. You chose to get upset. And then you went to the office, and you have this frown on your face, and, oh, what's wrong? Oh, that jerk. Okay, next person, you tell the same story. Now, your subconscious doesn't know this is critical time. All day you hit rewind, play, rewind of the same moment that it happened.
Right.
And it's your life, so evidently you learned something. Remember, if it don't kill you, make you stronger. Exactly. And so instead of learning the lesson from that moment, what's the lesson? The lesson is instantaneous let go. If it didn't kill you, let go of the feeling you had afterwards. Because
exactly.
That'll kill you faster than holding on to that less than positive emotion. Holding on to less than positive emotion will kill you faster, but slowly. Slowly. You'll have every condition known to man, and then eventually you'll die because your heart stopped. Whatever condition preceded that, eventually your heart will stop. And so
I can understand
instead of repeating hit rewind, play all day, how about we just say, wow, ooh, that was close. I'll find another parking spot somewhere. And, man, I hope that person's all right. Hope they have a great day. And then you find another parking spot.
Right. And there is so much validity in what you're saying, Doc. You know, I've learned this in my own life. You know, okay, somebody wrongs me. Did they mean to do it? I don't know. Do I care what they think of me? No, it's none of my business what they think of me. Do I do my best to be the best person I can be regardless? Yes, I do. So
There you go.
I 1,000% agree with you.
But see, that's a learned behavior, Tim. It's a learned behavior. You've heard from experience. I have as well. Everything I teach, I do. I don't teach everything I do, but everything I teach, I do. That's how I know that it works 100% of the time for 100% of the people. Because everyone has a pulse, an energy pulse, and everyone that's alive breathes oxygen. So those two things are met, then there's hope for you. There's always hope. But see, Tim, we forget that I know I read it somewhere. It says that we should not be judging other people.
Exactly.
And it's written somewhere, judge not, or something like that. What part did you forget? Oh, the judge not part. Okay. And the part that comes after that. Because if you judge them, you're judging yourself.
Correct.
So, if people knew, we're talking every person on the planet from the moment you are conceived, because when you're in the womb, you pick up energy from people that's around the mother that's carrying. Man, I'm so glad that we men don't have to do that. That's an arduous task.
I want no part of it.
I see why they have 60 gig hard drives.
Yeah.
Oh my
They need
goodness.
them.
Yes, but every thought, feeling, and emotion is absorbed or affects every cell. Every time. You have over 100 trillion cells now as an adult human being. And so if we knew, I do. That's why my intention is to never allow myself to run off road in my little Nissan. You run off road, you need a 4-wheel drive truck that sits way high off the ground. But you run off road in a Nissan, it's going to be kind of tough going up and down those hills and valleys and mud. And that's what we do with our thoughts. We run off road with our thoughts, and they're called less than positive about anything. Anything. It affects you. And even if you do run off road, some cars got automatic correction, or if you're a great enough driver, you can correct right away and get back on the road. Yeah, that's what you do. If you happen to have a less than positive thought, then go ahead, check your thought, check your feeling, check your emotion, take a couple deep breaths, and then let go that less than positive thought, feeling, and emotion. Just let it go. Let it go, like the princess in Frozen. Let it go. I had they were about 8 and 6. Today they finished college. These are two siblings, and the 8-year-old was badgering the 6-year-old, and she was doing something else. She was drawing, and then when the 6-year-old turned around and gave it back to her, the 8-year-old couldn't take it, and and the 6-year-old goes, "Elizabeth, just let it go. Let it go." And I stopped. I said, "Mary, what are they talking about?" "Oh, it's this movie Frozen." "Really?" And it teaches them to let it go. "Oh, yeah, I had to go get the movie just to watch it." Disney has a Frozen franchise. There'll be a 2, 3, and 4. I think 2 is out already, but there'll be a 3 and 4 because of the concept. Let go of what doesn't feel good to you, and especially if it came from an external source. Why would you let the behavior of someone else influence how you feel about yourself? Because your subconscious doesn't know that you're talking about that person. First person that hears what you say is you. So as soon as you hear it, you process it all over your brain 100 times. Easy. Because you had to learn the words. You had to learn to say the words. It goes all over your brain. It's processed and stored. Rewind, play. So now, by the end of the day, you've repeated the story maybe 10 times, and you wonder why you don't have any energy. You wonder why when you get home, your bed is waiting for you at the door.
Yeah.
Because you've expended all that energy, rewind, play, where you got angry and frustrated. And again, if people knew the devastation, we've seen clips on the news of tornadoes just going through and destroying the town. So think of that level of devastation. If we knew the catastrophic devastation that a less than positive thought begins with a thought. You control your emotions by controlling your thinking. You control your feelings by controlling your thinking. You control your life by controlling your thinking. So we knew the catastrophic, devastating effect of emotional upsetness. We spend the rest of our life from this moment forward, first of all, learning how not to go there, how to stay on the positive thought, feeling, and emotion, because anything less than that is going to take you to emergency. You can't be in emergency and healing simultaneously. It's impossible. So this person's been in emergency all day. So now it is a bad day. And it could have been a very different day. Instead of going to judgment and hit rewind play, which we're not supposed to do, that chemistry that comes from thinking, I call it thinking. That chemistry that comes from thinking is worse than having an IV put into your arm, and they're going to feed you intravenously. And what they're feeding you is liquefied McDonald's food.
Ooh.
You won't live long.
No.
That's for sure. Despite what they say, the food has very little nutritional value. And so if you have a mainstream of less than positive thinking, like some people would know a happy thought of it hit them upside the head, because we're into that habitual thought pattern. And we think it's okay. And we learn it from children up. And it's not okay. We're the only species of creation that can choose to get upset.
Well, that's
you can choose to be upset. Why would you choose that? Well, they got on my nerves. Why would you let that happen? Well, they made me. No one makes you do. You choose to.
That's correct.
That's the issue with parents. I counsel parents. You can't make a child do anything. You can force them. They haven't learned why. Just give them some options. Either you remember what we discussed? Oh, yes, Mommy. Okay, and so you said you were going to do it. Well, yeah, but you didn't do it, did you? Well, no. Why? Oh, I forgot. Okay, so what is it that we agreed on? And you said you were going to do it, so we got agreement and accountability. Now we look at the action. So as soon as he breached the agreement that you have, you bring it back and say, remember what we talked about? Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to give you one more time. Now, if you do it again, you won't get to eat today. And smile.
Right.
Most parents aren't willing to do that.
That gets them going.
I would not have a discussion more than 3 times about something we agreed on. And see, that allows the child to make the decision, and then pretty soon they'll know that what mommy and daddy are saying is for their benefit, is for them to learn, is for them to think and reason, not to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And then I have to bribe you with food to get you to, oh, no. I look at parents today, their children are unhappy because they are unhappy. We learn to be habitual, unhappy people. When we came here, we were happy. I have little grandchildren, maybe 4 months is the youngest, and she's happy when Papa shows up.
Oh, yeah.
She's happy. All of them are happy. Oh, there's Papa. They run and they're up because here's what we know, which is better, happy or sad. Oh, happy, Papa. Okay. Show me that happy face. And they'll show me a happy face. and we'll be happy all the time.
Right.
Where did we learn that it was okay to be sad? And then I extended just a little bit more. Sad is bad. Which is better, happy or sad? Happy. Sad is what? Bad. And so when they're sad,
good for you.
I said, oh, you're sad? I thought you thought happy was better. They stay sad. Well, okay, I'll be back when I see that happy face. I just don't. Zero tolerance for sad. Now I can't do that with adults. I'm beyond the child rearing age, but I still am interested in how to raise a healthy child. That's a challenge in this day and age. Most parents
you're not kidding.
don't know. In fact, that's the book I'm writing. Nature versus nurture, how to raise a healthy child. Is it nurturing or is it natural to get upset? Oh, my goodness. See, the sooner the child realizes and understands that it's ultimately their decision. Because when they're 12 and out with their friends, it's going to be their decision. They learn what mommy and daddy taught them, or are they choosing something different? See, if they learn it and experience it and understand the benefit and know that I can choose to be happy, they will not look for an external happy source. They're happy within themselves. And then they will attract happy people to them. They'll have happy experiences. See, in the land of quantum physics, which is different from Newtonian physics, quantum physics, like energies attract. So if you're happy, and you know, it's not fake happiness. You're happy to be alive. You need something to be happy about. Yes, my granddaughter, she was probably about 9. She's 18 now. Oh, I can't believe that. She was here visiting in St. Louis, and she said, Papa, I'm bored. I go, excuse me? Well, there's nothing to do. I said, well, what do you want to do? I thought you were okay over there. No, I'm bored. Well, aren't you happy to be here? She says, yeah. Aren't you happy to be at Papa's house? She says, well, yeah. And we're supposed to go somewhere this afternoon, right? Isn't that happy? Yeah, so...
Well, kids today need
happy to be here, happy to be hanging out with Papa and Gran. Yeah, and she changed. See, boredom is a state of mind. I don't even know what boredom is.
I don't either.
But see, it's how a child is taught. It's how a child is, and they have motivation for doing so because it makes them feel better. Across the board, unless you're not in your right mind, across the board, any person, their response when you ask them, which is better, happy or sad, would say happy, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah,
say sad,
I agree.
I don't know what planet you live on.
All right, hang on a minute, Doc. We'll come back and let you wrap up your thoughts. Don't have time for any calls, ladies and gentlemen. We're wrapping up the show. Be back in 3 minutes. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer sitting in for John Moore on the 16th day of August, year of our Lord, 2019. And it is a Friday. Weekend coming up, guys. Okay, Doc, we've got about 3.5 minutes of airtime here at the most. What do you want to put out to folks? What do you want to make sure the most important thing they come away from this hour is with? Did I say that right?
How important lifestyle is. When we go back to our one-cell organism, and now we're over 100 trillion, each of those cells have either an alkaline environment or live in an acid environment. The more alkaline you are, the healthier, the more healing. The more acid you are, the more itis you have, the more conditions you will develop. Stagnant fluid in the body is not good. It makes the heart work harder. So now you have to take a diuretic, and your blood pressure goes up. But the question is never addressed. Well, why did I stop making blood pressure regulating drugs? Because you were in a state of emergency most of the time. What's the number one emergency? Less than positive thinking about anything. And it produces acid at a very rapid rate. It's like IV and the most poisonous thing ever. And we don't have a system designed to handle the acid from less than positive thinking. And so what we end up doing is we wear out our normal systems trying to heal a memory that we're holding on to, trying to heal an emotion associated with a memory that hurt our heart the first time, and we're holding on to it. We can't do that. I know two people that instantaneously, well, I know them personally, but have met them, our Creator and His Son, instantly let go, instantly forgave gazillion, a billion people that weren't born. Last thing our exemplar, His Son, said, hey, they don't know what they're doing, just forgive them. So who are we as mere mortals to hold on to something that we weren't supposed to have in the first place? That's the number one way we kill ourselves. We create an acid environment. You've heard this before. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, then we are as healthy as our most acid cell. And so as long as we're alive, we can make a choice to be positive and happy. We can make a choice to eat correct foods. I mean, melons right about now are off the chart. Peaches, oh my goodness. You can change, and you don't have to worry about what your body's going to do once you start making those lifestyle changes. Eat, drink, breathe, exercise, rest, think, let it go. Embrace peace and love and joy and happiness. Realize that sad is bad. And set the intention. My intention is to check my thinking. Check my thinking. Habitual stinking thinking is the number one thing that takes us out the picture, because we don't eat 24/7, thank goodness. But we can choose, but we think 24/7. And the more we clean up our thoughts, the more our lives will change. And again, in the world of quantum physics, like energies attract. So you walk around happy experiences will come your way. It's been a pleasure,
thank
Tim.
you, Doc. Really had a good one. Good show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is it for the week. John will be back Monday morning. Please join me tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. right here, 10 a.m. Central right here on Republic. Everybody have a good weekend, folks. Bye-bye.